So I have Stephen D'Souza online with me. Stephen is working for CBC for a long time. All we know, many a times he has already appeared on our show. So this time he is telling us a very interesting story. He's working for a long time on this heist of $20 million of gold, which was stolen from Pearson airport. And all we know that this was the biggest ever gold heist in the Canadian history. So 9 people were charged, and so far, whatever information Stephen has been able to gather, he's going to share with us. No doubt, many people were from Punjabi or Indian origin were also involved in this heist. Stephen, welcome to Radio Parvasi and good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I think your this special story will be on Fifth Estate tonight.
That's right. It will be at 9 p.m. tonight, and then it's also on our YouTube channel this afternoon as well.
Wonderful. So far, as we all know, that in April 2023, 6,600 gold bars and almost 400 kilo gold was stolen from the tight security of this Pearson airport. It was such a shocking news. Many people won't believe it that this could happen at the Pearson airport. But so far as we know that enough information was released by the police at the later stage. But what information you have been able to get and go into deep into this this whole story? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so it's interesting. We were able to obtain through a source an internal draft document that's a snapshot of the investigation. And it's interesting because the material inside hasn't been tested in court as accurate and reliable, but it does contain details of the police investigation, including surveillance of the suspects, text messages exchanged between them, and information that's not been made public. And you'll recall that back when the theft first happened, it wasn't until a year later that police announced the arrests, and there were 9 men charged in this. And we learned that 2 of the men worked inside the Air Canada facility, 2 of the suspects. One of the suspects works at a jewelry shop in the Toronto area and is accused of melting down the gold. And one of the suspects was accused of driving the truck that drove away with the gold, because essentially what the suspects are accused of is faking some paperwork and then just picking up the shipment of gold and driving away. They didn't use any guns. There was no violence. We have security camera video that shows it all being quite routine. And so that individual, the suspected driver, was arrested in the United States and charged with smuggling guns. And so we learned quite a bit from the police, but this new document that we have gives us some more information, especially about some of the suspects. And I can tell you about one of them. His name is Simranpreet Panasar, and he was the acting manager at the Air Canada cargo facility. And it's interesting because he actually gave police a tour of the facility and was their point person early on in the investigation before they labeled him as a suspect. But on the day of the heist, the document we have, investigators allege that he used Air Canada's computers to identify the incoming flight with the shipment of gold. And they say they have evidence that he manipulated the Air Canada cargo system to help facilitate the removal of that container of gold. And there's also details of a text message exchange between Panasar and one of his colleagues the morning after the heist. He allegedly tells a colleague that he's leaving for India for days off. And the colleague asks him about a rumor that there was a theft at the facility the night before. According to this document we have, he replies, "No, nothing like that happened."
Oh, okay. So this man went to India, and tell us more about that. What happened after that?
So we did an interview with Detective Sergeant Mike Mavity, who's with the Peel Regional Police, and he is the lead detective in this case. And he tells us that 3 months into the heist, they were looking, 3 months after the heist, rather, they were looking at Panasar as a key suspect. But then Panasar resigned from Air Canada and says he's moving to India. Now, it was still early on in the investigation, so police were still trying to piece things together. And what Detective Mavity tells us is that they were in a very difficult situation. Do they let him go, or do they arrest him? So if they arrest him, they get some evidence, and they have one alleged suspect. But if they let him go, they can continue doing their work and try to identify the other suspects. So he said it was a very difficult decision, but ultimately the police let Panasar go to India, even though they knew he was a suspect. because they wanted to be able to figure out who the others were that were suspected of being involved. And ultimately, it appears they did. And so they were able to charge 9 men.
Yeah. So when he came back, he was arrested at the airport, I believe.
That was another suspect. That was Archit Grover.
Okay.
He was wanted on a Canada-wide warrant when the arrests were first announced. He came back to Canada and was arrested and charged, and then released on bail. But Pandasar said he was going to come back, but then he hasn't. And so he moved to northern India. He moved to Chandigarh, in the area around Chandigarh. And it's interesting because his wife is an aspiring actress and singer, and they were both posting on social media. His social media is private, but hers was open. And we noticed that there were a number of posts that showed a very specific location, the balcony of an apartment building. And so working with local journalists in India, we found that location. And so we sent a reporter to that location. He found the building, and he found Mr. Pandasar. And Mr. Pandasar told our colleague that he's innocent and he's wrongly implicated, but that he's been advised by his lawyer not to say any more. And so we don't know if he's going to come back to answer these charges.
Okay. And what happened to this gold?
That's the $20 million question. Police are still looking for the gold. They think a large portion of it went overseas, possibly to India, but also likely to Dubai, because that's where one of the other suspects they believe is hiding, a man named Arslan Chaudhry. They only found about some cash and gold bracelets worth about $89,000. But
that's all.
If you think about $20 million of gold, $89,000 is just a drop in the bucket. So they think some of the gold was melted in the Toronto area and some of it might have been sold in the Toronto area. This document we have does have some text messages between suspects, which, if proven true, could show that some of the gold was sold only about 2 months after the heist. So the police, though, are still looking for the gold. But, when you talk to experts, they say if it was melted down, it's likely gone and probably not going to be found, because it's incredibly hard to trace once gold is melted down.
Thank you, Stephen. We will leave something for our listeners to watch on CBC. So you worked really hard on this story, and let's watch it tonight, and then we'll talk in the coming weeks more about this issue, this story. But thank you so much. Anything you want to add at the end, Stephen?
No, you'll see we went to Dubai and we were trying to find some of the gold and one of the suspects. So tune in tonight to see how that search worked out.
Yeah, so let's watch and wait for watching this story on CBC Fifth Estate tonight. Thank you so much, and we will talk to you soon.
My pleasure. Always great to talk to you, and look forward to coming back when hopefully we have some more updates.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.